Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Joining me today, as always, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is we have a fun, exciting conversation today because we are talking about the rest of Andor, picking up from a couple weeks ago when we did the first half of Andor Season 2. We've now watched the second half of Andor Season 2, and so we're going to be covering... we'll talk about kind of the season and the show as a whole now that it is fully wrapped up, but the bulk focus of today's episode will be kind of the episodes Messenger, Who Are You, Welcome to the Rebellion, and Make It Stop, Who Else Knows, and Jedha, Kyber, Urso. And why did we pick it? Because it is the new Star Wars thing that is sadly done now. Our history lesson here, originally released, Season 1 was back September 21st through November 23rd, 2022. And Season 2 in 4 wonderful batches of 3 episodes apiece, April 22nd through May 13th, 2025, wrapping up this last week. These episodes, this batch of 6 specifically, had a runtime anywhere between 45 and 60 minutes. So that meant we were pretty much always in for a nice little 2+ hour movie of Andor-related Star Wars shenanigans each week. In our Star Wars TV timeline of things, specifically live action, we had the Obi-Wan Kenobi show back in May and June of 2022. Andor Season 1, September through November 2022. Mandalorian Season 3 in March and April of 2023. Ahsoka Season 1 in August and through October of 2023. The Acolyte in June of 2024. Probably ran through July as well. Skeleton Crew from December 2024 to January of this year, 2025. Andor Season 2 here, April through May, and upcoming, the next item on the slate before we eventually get the Mando and Grogu movie is Ahsoka Season 2 TBD. And we might actually get the Mando movie before that. I don't know where everything falls in the timeline, and Ahsoka Season 2 I don't believe has a date yet. Our roll call, we talked about them a little bit last time, but I'll give a quick nod to Ariel Kleiman for directing the first 6 episodes of this season, with other directing credits going back to 2007, including Yellow Jackets. And then for this batch of episodes, Janice Metz directed episodes 7 through 9, having directed previously projects like Armadillo, Borg vs. McEnroe, Heartbound, A Different Kind of Love Story, and All the Old Knives. And Alonso Ruiz Palacios directed episodes 10 through 12, having previously directed Narcos Mexico, a cop movie, and Outer Range and La Cocina. Mexican director by trade for Alonso there. Our writers, of course, Tony Gilroy, continuing on as the showrunner, who also wrote episodes 1 through 3 this season, having worked on stuff like Armageddon, the Bourne series, and Rogue One. Bo Williman wrote episodes 4 through 6, having worked on and been the House of Cards creator, as well as Mary, Queen of Scots. Dan Gilroy wrote episodes 7 through 9 here, brother to Tony, as well as having written Real Steel, The Bourne Legacy, Nightcrawler, and Kong Skull Island. And Tom Bissell wrapped us up with episodes 10 through 12, having written on many video game credit things that I wanted to call out here. Batman Arkham Origins, he provided additional writing. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. The Battlefield Hardline, he provided additional writing on Uncharted 4 and Uncharted The Lost Legacy. He wrote additional writing on What Remains of Edith Finch. Back on the movie side of things, he was the writer, or one of the writers behind The Disaster Artist, notoriously kind of poking fun at The Room. And he was the lead writer on Gears 5 and wrote on The Mosquito Coast as well. Our cast of characters, we got a whole bunch here. I've broken them, just like I did last episode, into like the living and the dead, who survived the series, and then who rest in peace by the end of it. But by the end of this series, not counting Rogue One, Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, of course, having been in Y Tu Mama Tambien, Milk, Rogue One, and Narcos Mexico. Surprising, maybe myself at least, maybe you as well, Adria Arjona survives as Bix Kayleen through the end of the series. It was like there was definitely a vibe of impending doom for her since we don't know, of her.
We thought it's storytelling 101 to fridge the girlfriend.
Yep.
So.
Instead, it is much sadder.
Yep.
as she is just off on Mina Rao with a kid that Cassian never got to meet.
Doesn't even know exists.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's safer that way.
Yep. She was in True Detective, Six Underground, Morbius, and Father of the Bride. Denise Go also survives the day as Daedramiro, although she probably wishes she hadn't.
Yep.
Ending up there in Narkina, or a prison like Narkina.
She finally gets the leopards eating her face moment that she deserves.
Sure. She was Yennefer in The Witcher 3, and she's also in The Kid Who Would Be King. Genevieve O'Reilly, of course, as Mon Mothma, which she has been playing since deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith. She's also Moira in Overwatch. Faye Marseille as Vel Sarta also survives the day, having been in previously Game of Thrones and Doctor Who Last Christmas. Elizabeth Dulau also survives the day as Clea, getting a nice little time to shine there in the last few episodes. She's previously in a few episodes of Gentleman Jack and The Outlaws.
I found an interesting article about her just a couple days ago, where it turns out that her first big acting gig was Andor season 1.
Yeah.
She's fresh out of acting school, and what's interesting is Gilroy over the time, over these 2 seasons, as much as every time he saw her act and saw her do a scene, he decided to write and put her in more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It very much was, the Clea character was not meant to be as crucial or critical or have deep of a background of a character until Elizabeth Dulau really brought this character to life, and her back and forth with Stellan Skarsgård was just such a great tit for tat that it just evolved into this beautiful father-daughter relationship that they ended up having, including one of the best lines of all time, which was, "Oh, Krennic was in there. We should have killed him."
Yeah. So I looked her up because she was definitely one who, a lot of this I just kind of copied and pasted from Andor season 1 stuff.
Yeah.
So I hadn't gone through an update to say oh, what have they been in since? But you mentioning that, I did pull up her IMDb. She was in Wicked too. She plays the voice of the deer.
Deer professor.
In the scene of the animals conspiring or whatever.
Yep.
She's in there. Muhammad Ben Amor as Wilman, having been in Mariah the Diva, the Demons, the Drama.
Let me tell you, if there's one character that I predicted from season 1 not making it, it's this guy.
Yeah.
This guy constantly letting I'll put it nicely, constantly letting his heart get in his way with all the women he's fallen in love with, that puts every operation he's in danger. But yeah, he is kind of the bleeding heart of the rebellion. He has a good incredible moment with Saw Gerrera in those last half of those episodes that is just absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is truly just great stuff.
Yeah, he really got to shine here in the second season. So much so that I didn't even remember him from the first season until looking back and being oh yeah, I guess he was one of the
He's so
guys.
ancillary.
Yeah. Ben Mendelsohn, of course, reprising his role as Krennic, who you just mentioned, having been Krennic since Rogue One. He's also been in projects like Ready Player One, Robin Hood, and Talos in the MCU since Captain Marvel. He's also in Cyrano from a couple years back. You also mentioned Forrest Whitaker there as Saw Gerrera.
Oh, so good.
We get kind of the conclusion of his story and leading into Rogue One.
We also get such a good background for him filled out finally, because there was always this big gap of who he was in the Clone Wars cartoon to who he ended up becoming in Rogue One, and people being what happened?
Yeah, what radicalized him?
Yeah, what made him go off his rocker? And we get that.
Yep.
And it turns out, he wasn't using this thing because it helps him breathe. It's his drug, baby.
Yeah.
He needs it. That's his shtick. Also, it makes sense why why it's actually super noble that he sent Jin away. Because he knew things were getting bad, and he knew he was going insane. Mm-hmm. From huffing all this gas. Also makes it sadder because it means he chose the gas and all of that over her.
Yeah.
Really puts a sad note on their relationship as well.
Yep. Of course, Forrest Whitaker, also known for projects like The Last King of Scotland and Black Panther. We talked about it last time, but Benjamin Bratt taking over the role of Senator Bail Organa here because Jamie Smits was unable to reprise the role due to scheduling conflicts. Benjamin Bratt, of course, been in many a thing.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about last time. He also pops up in Doctor Strange in the MCU. He's Miss Congeniality and any number of other projects out there.
Shout out again for him being on Law and Order.
Yep.
Law and Order. He's an alum.
Yep. Pulled out of the Left 4 Dead category that I had him in last week. Dave Chapman as Buno, who we do get to see lives another day there in the last scene on Mina Rao. Dave Chapman was one of the BB-8 performers in Solo, a Star Wars story. He's also in The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. Alan Tudyk returns to the role of K2SO, having been in projects like Firefly, Dodgeball, iRobot, and recently a Disney mainstay, or the voice of Clayface in Harley Quinn, and also in Creature Commandos. He plays two different versions of Clayface across different DC projects.
Oh, he's also the Doctor, the skeleton guy.
Oh, I didn't actually watch Creature Commandos. I just have seen him do interviews of being like, yeah, I got to play Clayface.
I think that's Alan Tudyk. I might be wrong. I admittedly I have not watched Creature Commandos at all, except for the clips that kept showing up on my TikTok while that was airing. Apparently, though, it's really good. People really enjoyed it. Although I think it might be still end up in Squick territory for you.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And also, it's that weird thing of like, wow, that's Dr. Phosphorus.
Yeah, Dr. Phosphorus.
Yep.
Which is interesting because Dr. Phosphorus is a Batman Beyond villain originally. So they've redone him to make him a modern era villain. Also, he wasn't Dr. Phosphorus. He was just Phosphorus.
Well, he's credited as Dr. Phosphorus here on IMDb.
This one is Dr. Phosphorus. Gotcha. The original was, I think, just Phosphorus.
Gotcha.
He was Terry McGinnis's prime enemy because he was responsible for the death of Terry's father. Wow. Batman Beyond was good, folks.
I don't recall it that much. I grew up with it, but it's like that and Batman the Animated Series. I'm like, I watched that, Saturday mornings and stuff. I did not turn it into my religion like so many people did, it would seem.
Trevor, the only reason I ever got into wrestling is because I saw Sting rappel down from the rafters, rescue Diamond Dallas Page by going back up, and I said, that's Batman, but in real life. And that introduced me to wrestling. So Batman literally led me into another great love of my life, which is wrestling.
Sure. Piero Neil Me here. I went ahead and gave him a shout out. I did not call him out in the first batch of episodes, but he was in there too as Erskine Semaj. Miscellaneous credits going back to 2009. But as he continued to play a role, I wanted to give him a call out here. Duncan Powell reprises his role as Melshi. The credits going back to 2005, including Rogue One as Sergeant Melshi.
Yep.
So it's a nice little him returning into the role and getting a little bit of backstory. Yep.
Yeah, it was great. Knowing that he's Cassian's buddy from from just in the rebellion. Them playing like a home game of Sabacc with Kay was just fantastic.
Yep. I'll have a little bit of trivia about him later on. Alistair Petrie reprised his role as General Davitz Draven, with miscellaneous credits going back to 1993, including Rogue One as General Draven. And then lastly, in the survived the series, on the bad guy side, Michael Yen as Supervisor Legret. Might be Michael Jen, I don't know. He has credits going back to 1984, including an appearance in Doctor Who, The Name of the Doctor. He was the one in this final episode who, when Partagaz offs himself, is just kind of sitting there and like coldly just is like, it's okay, Stormtroopers, nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
It's like,
I found it to be cold, but also like a weird level of respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like he left the room knowing exactly what was going to happen.
Yes.
And so he's basically telling them it's okay. Nothing can be done, nothing to worry about.
Just we're letting
this man have his dignity and death in peace.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very for the bad guy side, such a solemn solemn death.
Yeah.
That is, it's so funny because it really does play back into not Pycelle. He's a character in Game of Thrones.
Q.
Qyburn. He's Qyburn
yeah.
in Game of Thrones, and his whole attitude for the whole intelligence game has had very big Game of Thrones. You either win or you die vibes to it, and for it to come to this point and like it's a die moment for him is really, really good.
Yeah. I look forward to we'll talk about him and kind of how he got in his own way and kind of led to his own downfall in those last couple arcs later on. In our category of RIP characters, I won't call them out here because they passed away in the previous episodes, but Joplin Sibtain as Brasso, Ben Miles as Takolma, and Verodu Setu as Sintakaz. In this batch, we bid a fond farewell to Kyle Solar as Cyril Karn, who's of course in Anna Karenina, Yumi in the Apocalypse, Marrowbone, and the Titan. In the also in the Gore arc here, I decided to call out Elise Lawson. Was Enza Rylands, the daughter. She's been in Journey's End, Love, Death, and Robots, and Domina, as well as Richard Sammel as Caro Rylands, the elder statesman of that little contingency.
The Merchant Clan.
He was in Casino Royale as well as in Glorious Bastards, are some of his other credits. Robert Ems as Supervisor Lonnie Young. Does not see the end of this war, having been offed by Luthen. He's been in Warhorse, Chernobyl, His Dark Materials, and Sherwood. Stellan Skarsgård, of course, as Luthen Rael, having been in stuff like Good Will Hunting, Pirates of the Caribbean, Mamma Mia, Thor, and Dune.
For a guy who is so legendary as an actor, this might be, in my opinion, his best role. It's so that monologue from season 1 alone, I think puts it up there with some of his best. But
I mentioned this to somebody else the other day who's like, I never really get into the Star Wars stuff, but because I basically was like, this is quite this cements this as my favorite Star Wars thing. Spoilers for future bits of this conversation. And they were like, wow, is that good? I never usually get into Star Wars. And I was like, well, it has a leg, like a lot of the shows, it has a leg up on the movies because you just get to spend more time with these characters.
Yeah.
And then also has a leg up because of the incredible stellar writing, which I think even George Lucas would admit writing is not his strength and forte. So there have been weaknesses in some of the films because of that. And then others, especially in the later batch, we got a whole bunch of fan service instead of things that actually make sense for a Star Wars story. And so, yeah, I think Stellan Skarsgård, it's the Jessica Jones thing, where I remember the Purple Man was my favorite villain in the MCU for a little while because we got so much time with David Tennant in that role, because of the length of time we had with the Jessica Jones series.
Yeah.
Compared to the most present villain, of course, at that point would have been Loki, and even there, Loki with a couple movies didn't have nearly as much time as David Tennant in a 12 or whatever episode season. So yeah, it's the same kind of thing here, I think. Skarsgård, so many of the characters really benefit and become incredibly compelling characters because we're getting more time with any of them than we get with Luke Skywalker, or apart from the Clone Wars, and really diving into the animation sides of things. We're spending more time with a lot of our heroes in this story, even the villains in this story, than most other Star Wars characters get. So yeah I think there's always going to be a bit of a it's a cheat almost for them.
If it's done as well as Andor, it will absolutely topple it. But if it's not done as well, you get Book of Boba Fett.
It was
it's a hard line to follow, but if done well, cements it as some of the best we're ever gonna get.
Yeah, it's also there was a thing that made the rounds after the Marvels, or after the Miss Marvel show came out, where just from the Miss Marvel show, the kid who played Bruno, Miss Marvel's friend, had more screen time than Samuel L. Jackson had in the MCU across
Yep.
all of his appearances. So yeah, that's just another thing that speaks to like the difference between the real estate you get on a TV show versus the real estate you get across the movies. Anyway, a couple more here to rest in peace to Jacob James Beswick as Supervisor Hirt, who gets a dismal end there as a human shield for K2. He has credits going back to 2013, including the much acclaimed 1917 from a couple years ago. And lastly, Anton Lesser as Major Partagas. He was previously in Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, Game of Thrones, and The Crown. Some trivia. We have, of course, in the galactic timeline of things, we have part 3 here taking place in 2 BBY, and then part 4 taking place in 1 BBY. Other notable events of 2 BBY. Again, just like last time around, lots of Star Wars Rebels stuff because they're kind of taking place in the same timeline.
Yep.
We have Thrawn being promoted to Grand Admiral and given command of the Imperial Starfleet's 7th Fleet. We have Sabine Wren recruiting Wedge Antilles into the rebellion with a very similar "Welcome to the Rebellion" line that Cassian gives to Mon Mothma. Sabine Wren also claims the Darksaber during this time, and Mon Mothma, following kind of her escape from the Senate, forming the alliance properly, the alliance to restore the Republic, and the war against the Empire officially begins. And also during this time, back on Tatooine, a little man named Darth Maul loses a duel against Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Shoot, yeah, that's right. That's when this happens.
Yep.
That is also a very lovely scene in Rebels. If people haven't seen it, like Rebels as a show, fantastic. People should just watch it.
I love it. Usually makes the rounds in my Instagram Reels feeds and stuff like that. I love Sam Witwer breaking down that scene where he talks about like the different poses and stances that Obi-Wan is doing. That of like I'm gonna be this guy. Wait, no, I'm not that version of Obi-Wan anymore. I'm Alec Guinness. I'm gonna be this version of Obi-Wan now. Wait, no, I'm gonna see if I can bait you and do the Qui-Gon Jinn pose.
Yep.
And sure enough, that's what happens. And he takes out Maul, and Maul immediately realizes I fucked up.
Yep.
And this must be this is the most powerful Jedi probably still remaining, or one of them, and he's not here babysitting something. He is protecting something with all of his essence and stuff like that. It's a great breakdown from Sam.
And he says, like, in true to Maul fashion, though, he dives into true to Maul fashion, which is like, is he the one who will, for Maul, is he the one who will grant me my revenge?
Yeah.
Because the entire, Maul's entire, whether it's the Clone War seasons that he's in or anything, his war against the Emperor and Palpatine for the betrayal that Palpatine dealt him is one of the most interesting through lines from episode 1 all the way through to that episode of Rebels that exists. And it's fascinating to see everybody's misunderstanding and misinterpretation of what his truest desire is. Yeah.
It'll also be interesting since they're now doing a dedicated Maul show. Because another thing Sam Witwer calls out is what is the reason Maul never reveals to the world or the galaxy that Darth Sidious is Palpatine? Why is that never shed a light on? Maybe we'll see that now too.
Maybe we'll. I've always took it as who would believe him.
Sure.
And then by the time people would believe him,
it's already kind of known, and the people who can do anything about it
it's too late.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter because the war is over, because it didn't, and that's the whole thing about Palpatine's plan is it didn't matter who won the conflict, he was always going to come out on top.
Yeah.
It's one of the best parts about it's one of the best parts of George Lucas's writings of the prequels is that it's Palpatine's plot and plan goes off because he just plays people against themselves, and it works.
Yeah. Easy to win when you're controlling both sides of the war. Also in 1 BB1, again, more Rebels stuff. We, of course, have Sabine Wren passing the Darksaber on to Bo-Katan Kryze, who will eventually lose it to Moff Gideon. We have Kanan Jarrus sacrificing himself to save Hera Syndulla and the rest of the Spectres. We have Ezra Bridger entering the world between worlds and saving Ahsoka Tano, which I alluded to last time on the other side of when Ahsoka Tano gets pulled out of time. We have the liberation of Lothal occurring, including Ezra Bridger sacrificing himself to be taken alongside Grand Admiral Thrawn and his fleet to Paradia in another galaxy by a pod of Purrgil, who we will pick up with years later in Ahsoka Season 1.
Yep.
And then, of course, quite literally immediately after the events of this season, we go into Rogue One, which immediately then goes into Episode 4, A New Hope.
They are not missing any time. They are on it.
So some other trivia items here from Part 3, the Gorman massacre. It now makes sense why they kind of rebranded the Tarkin or the Legends Gorman massacre of Tarkin landing on the city into the Tarkin massacre, so they could make this the Gorman
genocide.
Yeah.
They elevate the Gorman massacre to a Gorman genocide by also bringing in Tarkin. Once again, Tarkin is... It's one of the things I mentioned to you yesterday. Well, you came out and watched these episodes with me.
Okay. Yep.
The through line of Krennic and Tarkin. Krennic was kind of like a shadowy bad guy in season 1, kind of like mentioned, but not there. In this season, he comes in as plays a much deeper, more cognizant presence that then leads into him being the main enemy in Rogue One. In the same way, now that kind of like mystery, like, oh, he's being mentioned a lot. It's Tarkin. They're playing that same narrative role that then will lead into him being kind of the guy around like the higher up behind the scenes who's like only there a little bit to then being the main antagonist in episode 4. I don't know if that was Gilroy's intent. I'm going to say it is because I want to give that. If it is, it's his flowers. If not, I'm wrong, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's a really brilliant way of like layering out your villains.
Mm-hmm. On the Gorman front, right after Partagez tells Daedra about Gorman aggression and the resistance to imperial norms, we of course see the Galactic Press repeating those talking points, Fox News style, continuing the thread of propaganda that was introduced earlier in the season.
Yep.
Sneakily disguised as it is spoken in Gore, but Rylance channels a little bit of Admiral Akbar there when he recognizes it's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
The rebellions are built on Hope Line, of course, will be carried forward from the bellhop through Cassian on Jeddah to Jyn Erso, and then Jyn Erso will later use it to try and persuade the rebel leadership to take the fight to Scarif in Rogue One. Cassian's rifle on Gore is the same one that he nearly uses to kill Galen Erso on Edu. Cassian and K2 meeting is retconned from an introduction that they were given in the comics. But since Draven talks about leaving all of the Gore and Coruscant mission stuff off the books, the comic origin could be the like story that the Rebellion told of the two of them meeting instead. I mean,
hey, we got a really interesting pseudo retcon in a later episode too. So
also, we have the Gore rebel helping secure K2SO being the same one that killed Cinta in the previous arc, as he attempts to carry Cinta's death with him, just like Vel said. Mon Mothma's speech and escape from the Senate also feeds nicely into Gold Squadron picking her up and delivering her to Yavin via the Ghost in Rebels Season 3 episode Secret Cargo. I think that's the other like retconny kind of thing, and I appreciate that it was they kind of call it out. They make it a moment here, but then they're like, "Hey, we're gonna stage this whole other escape for her," which feeds more into the established kind of canon of things. Yeah,
when you look at the other like Andor really is such a great way of being like, hey, this is the real story. Mm-hmm. This is the like CIA, like this stuff would be redacted in a report somewhere, classified info only. And it is, because it is. It's if you are in a war of attrition like this, a war of uprising and civil unrest where it has to be across the galaxy, you need motivation. So you need these stories. And so, Luke, the legend of Luke Skywalker that, we love Logan, but Logan still clings on to, doesn't match up with like, well, guess what? That guy grew up and thought that he was doing everything great. And like, I'm in my mid 30s and I've had some like career stuff not go well.
It's really easy to understand his trauma.
It's really easy. It's like, oh, he decided he wanted to hold up and be a hermit in the middle of nowhere. I feel that constantly. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that I feel that my dream is to convert a like a FedEx truck into a like studio apartment and then just live somewhere where I have like a square plot of land. That's my dream at this point in my life. That's my quote unquote retirement in 30, 40 years, whatever. Like, it's not good, man. Like your life can take some turns. And I'd even have a nephew murder all my students.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I love it. I love it. The whole, like, the look on Cassian's face where it's Cassian has spent so much time on Yavin that he forgot. This is like it goes back to what Luthen said. Like, I will never see the horizon of the day, like the day that I built. I like that entire idea of like, we're planting seeds for a tree we will never sit under the shade of. It's like, hey, we know you just saved her, but we can't tell people you saved her.
Yeah, like, for me, I don't see that as like, or I didn't read Cassian's like response to that as like a sadness or anything. Like I saw it as like, understand, like, I understood.
I took that as well.
I've done enough, things that I know are never going to see the light of day.
That's what I mean, though. It's like it's a moment where he now has one of the most.
He does get to throw it back at them. Like, the last time I talked to Luthen was a year ago when he told me to save Mon Mothma's life.
Yeah,
like, yeah.
That's a great like a reminder. Hey, by the way,
you all know that that's exactly what happened. Like, it might not be the story that everybody else knows, but the people in this room know that story.
Yeah. By the way, like, and that's a reminder also of like what Luthen's done. Like, we don't talk about what Luthen's done because it's not the nice stuff. Yeah, it's not the good stuff. It's the terrorism.
Luthen very much becomes kind of in the same persona non grata as Saw, but
worse. In some ways worse.
So in the pre-established stuff that we'd seen prior to Andor, that's why we'd never heard of this character. But he obviously was instrumental in moving pieces in place in the same way that Saw was.
It's what what's her name? I almost said Draven, but that's not it. It's blonde. She plays Yennefer.
Deidre.
Deidre, thank you.
Or Daedra.
Daedra. Daedra called it out when she gave him his nickname, his code name, Axis. Everyone revolves around him, and that's how the rebellion started. Like, it started because Luthen participated in, and by the way, I don't know if you picked up on this, but earlier when I'm going to have to pull up some names here because I'm just blanking on all of them real quick here. My bad, everybody. Sorry. I'm talking about, let's see here. We are talking about Vel? Vel. It is Vel. Okay. Vel, she mentions when they're going back and they're talking about Gorm and they're talking about like Imperial atrocities, they go back to one and they mention one and it's like, yeah, but nobody knows about that or survived that. And it's like, Vel makes a comment. If somebody told me that they were there for it, I would have I'd knocked them out.
Aldhani, yeah. It's the people who people have told Cassian that they were there at Aldhani, and he's fully well aware that him and Vel and Cinto were like the only people that survived that mission.
Yeah.
And so
there's stuff like that.
It's very much like that. Vel's response there is like how dare you try and how dare you steal my valor for that?
Yeah,
moment.
It's 100% stolen, anti-stolen valor. I'm wondering if one of those is what I'm so bad at this. I was saying their names totally fine earlier. Let's see here. It's a named character, Sintra. And what Sintra we now know is the child of some sort of Imperial black site massacre that happened to wherever she was living. And that's how she met Luthen. She stowed away on his ship. We don't Oh,
you're talking, that's not Sintra. That's
sorry, not Sintra.
That was Clea.
Clea, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is how bad it is for me, folks. I'm sorry, but yeah, Clea. I'm looking on Wikipedia right now to see if they mention what it was that where she's from.
Oh, I don't think this is all we know. All we know is those last couple episodes in terms of her backstory. So no, I don't think that's been established.
Yep.
What we do get, and I'll touch on this in a bit, is okay, we know that Luthen Rael wasn't his real name. He was seemingly a Imperial Sergeant Lear Rael backwards. So interesting that he kind of kept a part of his name there.
But it's also part of like a codex or a cryptic or like it fits within his character super well.
Yeah.
But also, it's that entire moment where he realizes that he's part of like a massacre that's going on and he's freaking out about it. And when he realizes he can do some good, he does. And he mentions in season 1, I like the calculation I came to 15 years ago. And it's like, that's when he made the calculation. When he chose to save this kid, and be the closest thing he could possibly be to a father and a mentor. But also definitely put her through some shit.
Yeah.
But also one of my, we'll get to it in that later episode. So I'll let us stop for a moment. But there is,
So wrapping up the trivia for part 3.
Yes.
I have the saga of Melshi and the blaster. Because of course Melshi gets reintroduced with Vel finding the blaster, which she recognizes, and says, who belongs to this? That blaster that Vel calls out was the very same blaster that Cassian took off of Sio Karn on Ferrix. And when Vel questioned about that blaster on Aldani, who did you steal this off of? Or actually, Vel doesn't do it. It's the guy from the bear that does it, who ends up kind of betraying them. He says, who'd you steal this from? And Cassian says, didn't get his name, which leads into, of course, the "Who are you" moment on Gore. But Andor later hands that blaster off to Melshi after the two of them escape their trials in the prison on Narkina.
Yep.
And so, of course, then Melshi makes his way to the rebellion, where they hand off all their guns and kind of get inspected and whatnot. And so Vel asks about it, having very much recognized that pistol as a pistol that she knew Cassian to have held in the past. And of course, Melshi will go on to lead the mission to retrieve Jyn Orso and join the Rogue One squad on the mission to Scarif.
Yep.
So nice little full circle. It was one of those oh, that's really cool that they introduced him in the prison stuff in Narkina, and that's how he knows Cassian. And so I loved him coming back here, him going on that last mission there in part 4 to save Clea, to help establish why he can kind of be a number 2 to Andor in Rogue One,
because they're literally prison homies. They were in prison together.
They're basically they're basically roomies at they're now sharing Cassian's bunk at along with K2 on Yavin.
Yep.
Some trivia from part 4. Lonnie's intel of Jedha, Gore, Kyber, Galen Erso, Edu, Scarif, and the Empire's Weapon Project, all, of course, are pieces that get put into place for Rogue One and help establish why the rebellion knew to pick up some of those breadcrumbs.
Yep. Also, sets up Cassian, why Cassian bites at this info that his informant on this other planet has.
Yep.
And why he's willing to kill for it to keep it out. It really sets up the stakes. And I'm honest, I'm looking for. I'm thinking I'm going to watch Rogue One this weekend.
I rewatched it last.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
After the Gorman episodes, I was like, I just gotta go watch Rogue One again.
Yeah. The anticipation I have for it now is so much higher, because they really set the stakes in this episode, in this last episode of, hey, people already died for this. Mm-hmm. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
But this is also the episode where we find out that, his calculation 15 years ago, all of that.
Luthen's past reveals him to have been an Imperial Sergeant Lear, a.k.a. Rail backwards. The Orabesh writing of the hospital name is Lena So, named for a Chancellor of the High Republic era. So
cool.
People that kind of looked at that little background detail and that's one of those things Tony Gilroy, I've been watching some of his interviews and stuff like that. He's not a huge he grew up and watched Star Wars in theaters and stuff like that, but he's never been the super diehard fan. So that definitely strikes me as something that some production person was I'm going to throw in this little Easter egg and nod to Coruscant history or something.
Absolutely.
Like that. And it's I don't think Tony Gilroy or whoever wrote it wrote. And at the Lena So hospital.
Yeah, no. It's it's hospital scene.
At the hospital, we're gonna have a little, break-in heist. She's gonna kill him, and we'll be done.
But that's one of the best parts about Star Wars when you're letting it be a collaborative process. Is let the people who are the super fans fill in the tapestry that you make when you're doing your own thing. I think that's what Bryce Dallas Howard does really well when she directs. It's I love seeing that from. Bring in these great caliber of directors and producers and then letting the production people who do love Star Wars take care of the nerdy stuff.
Yep. We get some Rogue One cameos with Admiral Raddus and Senators Jebel and Pamlo, along with references to General Merrick and Dodonna, who are off-site in that last little trio of episodes, but will be returning like tomorrow night. Tivik on Kafrene is the informant that we will eventually see Cassian kill off early in Rogue One when he's unable to flee and escape the stormtroopers. It's lovely to see that Nemec's manifesto has spread around the galaxy, and even the ISB can't track where it stems from.
It's been broken up into pieces and spread around. And like he goes, "Have you heard it before?" He goes, "Only bits and pieces." He goes, "Nobody knows where it came from, the original thing." Jeff Grubb had a great skeet about it, where he's like a blog.
It's about a blogger who devoted his time to an open source software.
Yeah. Yep. Just truly, especially coming from Jeff Grubb, what he like Giant Bomb's gone through the last week. Like, sure. Oh, here you go. Andor's about how a blogger who is dedicated to open source software and right to repair saves the galaxy.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff, man. Fantastic stuff. Andor, yeah.
The last little bit of trivia here. Like Rogue One, leading directly into Episode 4, A New Hope, the Andor finale, of course, leads most of our cast right into the very beginning of Rogue One, with many of them basically donning their attire for where we're going to see Rogue One. And I love that, just kind of on that, I love that, like, we did kind of have this, maybe stemming from Rogue One itself, this sense of, like, a lot of these characters aren't going to make it out of this because we don't see them in Rogue One, or we don't see... And the reality is, no... We don't see a lot of people in Rogue One or A New Hope. There are many parts of the rebellion that are happening compared to the small little groups that we're focused on in those movies. So I love that, like Willman survives and he's got his Gore girlfriend, that they're out there fighting in the rebellion and can have stories continue. I love that Vel's out there still fighting and alongside her cousin Mon Mothma.
I think one of the things I loved about it also was when... Alderaan. I said Aldana. When Organa, when Senator Organa comes in, and
I want to go down swinging.
There's that, but I really like when right before he comes in, we see that because it's like we haven't heard Cassian talk about his sister at all this season, and then we see in one of the last scenes with Cassian, we get. He still dreams about her. He's never stopped thinking about her.
I think, and that's something that has been like making the rounds in a lot of here's, a big unanswered question of Andor. It's like, whatever happened to Cassian's sister? And it's just the tragedy of like, he never found her. He never got another lead. He never, in a big bad galaxy, she probably died a long time ago. Or if she didn't die and she made it on that planet that we meet him on, like the first time we see him in this show, it's because he's on a planet where women from his home planet have been known to frequent as like women of the night kind of thing. And so it's like, even if she made it off world and made it to there, hasn't been living the best life. So I love the character that has created of Andor also gets a call out in the final batch of episodes. He never doesn't go back and save somebody again after that. Like he always tries to go back and save people, and Vel saying like he has to stop saving people,
and he can't. He can't
because he lives with that. Like he failed to save his sister. He didn't escape with his sister, and couldn't ever go back and save her. So
and it wasn't his fault either. He was knocked unconscious and was taken in. Like his adopted parents didn't know about his sister. Like it's the tragedy of a massive galaxy.
Yeah.
That these tragedies happen all the time. Cassian's story of like what happened, like maybe not 1-to-1 identical, like it's common out there, but we saw it with like Cyril. Like people get lost in the crunch of the galaxy, and if we're not following the story of heroes, that's far more common. It's a tragedy. It's one of the tragedies that Andor dies, not knowing what happened to his sister.
Not knowing what happened to his sister, not knowing he has a daughter out
Yep.
there or a son,
A child, yeah. That Bix, had his kid.
So that's another like loose end that I love is left open there for another storyteller to pick up and run with if they want to.
It's you mentioned earlier, like people were floating around, but they figured out the timing doesn't work. Is like that's Poe Dameron.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm okay with that because we don't need legacy families outside of the Skywalkers. It's okay.
Sure.
We don't need it. We don't need the Palpatines. We don't need the Skywalkers have done enough good and enough bad to the galaxy as a family. We don't need to make that a thing.
Yeah. Outside
of the Sean family, Bastila Sean and Revan's lineage and the Old Republic storylines that can continue, I'm okay with that.
That's all the trivia I had for this. What did you think of these episodes there, Cam?
This is the best fucking Star Wars that we've ever gotten. This Andor season 1 was already up there as this might be the best thing we ever get in Star Wars. This is the thing to top.
Yeah.
This is par excellence. This is the best Star Wars I've ever seen, and that includes the magic that I saw as a kid watching it. This show could not be coming out at a more perfect time in real life. They didn't plan that.
Of course not. Yeah, that's another thing. I saw Stellan Skarsgård being like, "This was all written written and shot well before the election results and stuff last year." But it's the timelessness of fascism and these kinds of stories that you're gonna find that to resonate somewhere.
And not everybody even is gonna have the position like Alani has of Lonnie, even though he was a coward to the end, saved the galaxy in a way. We need more heroes, even cowardly heroes. And when we're dealing with the things that we deal with, even on our own real life, we need to be willing to make those choices. Not all of us will have that choice to make, but it's important that those who do make that choice. And I think this is a story of a good reminder of that.
Even Luthen says, I didn't realize I had that. I didn't realize I could make choices,
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I remember I came into you in here into the office while you were playing something after watching the Gore episodes and was like, I just watched the coolest Star Wars thing I've ever watched. The tension and just the way the whole season kind of builds to that Gore climax. Was so brilliantly done. All the the setting up the pieces, the manipulation that's happening on the Empire's side, kind of on all fronts, and Cassie, the shot because I ended up watching it again when you were watching it, and I said the shot of Cassian looking around and seeing what's happening in the square, and then the camera pans over to Cyril entering the scene, and they just miss each other.
Yeah,
is so because it is it's. And just that whole episode and the tee up that makes for later when Cyril does see Cassian and loses it, and Cassian ultimately doesn't remember who this guy was because this is a guy that he spared the life of 3 years ago or whatever it was there in the beginning on Ferrix, but it was that that Street Fighter for me it was a Tuesday kind of moment.
absolutely his M. Bison moment right there.
Yeah.
In a not as great way.
Sure.
But,
yeah. I love the.
Oh, also we learned where Cyril's where Cyril's line is. We always I was always curious at what point does Cyril have a line he's not willing to cross or that will teeter him over, and it's genocide. It turns out it's genocide.
Yeah. There you go.
Turns out. He's totally willing to go about it until all of a sudden the people that he's been living with for the last 2 years, he realizes are going to be genocided. And he's like...
That moment where he almost kills Dedra because he's so furious in the fact that she's been hiding this from him.
That she used him to commit massacre, that she's going to let this happen. He figures it out once she's in there and he sees it. Also, shout out to them having this is an amazing thing from the interviews and stuff. They both mentioned, both actors mentioned that there's a scene that for them is the most messed up moment in the show, the most most disgusting, grotesque moment in the show, and it turns out it's the scene where she kisses him to shut him up. Mm-hmm. To that kiss is emasculating. It is demeaning. It is so much. It says so much about what their relationship has been, and the fact that he goes along with it until he finally, like, it clicks. It's like this. None of these people are getting out alive.
Yeah.
And goes back to her and like,
what have you made me a party to? Is
Yeah.
very much kind of the vibe of that. I can't. Be
what did you
here.
make me do? Like, that's what it's like. What did you make me do?
But there is that, like, I do appreciate that, even though he very much ends it and is like, good luck with your life, I'm out of here. I love that she does genuinely seem to care about him enough to not want him to die out there among the people. And so, like, she immediately tells somebody, go, like, obviously we already know because we've already seen him jump the barricade and head back out there. But, like, she immediately tells, like, her subordinates, go find Cyril, don't let him leave the building, because she wants to protect him in that moment.
And then when she doesn't, and you see that it's the one time she can't pull it together.
That's the, like, they never show us seeing her they don't give us the visual of her seeing his death. So that moment where, like, she's losing it and can't, like is what, like, there were a lot of people who, like, when you would see that clip in the trailers of her, like, grabbing her thing, thought she was being, like, force choked or something like that. And when it is the realization of, like, no, she can't breathe because of the atrocity she has just helped commit. I don't know if in that moment she is mourning the atrocity she just helped commit, or if she's mourning Cyril because she knows that Cyril,
I think it's
died
both.
out there.
I think because she doesn't know how Cyril died. She just knows he died from blaster fire.
But that's the thing, is, like, even in what is presented to us, we don't know if she knows.
Sure.
Like, presumably she has gotten a
interpretation
report,
of
they've
that's
cleaned the bodies and whatnot and said,
but she sent people out to find Cyril.
Yeah.
And if they found his body, that to me is that scene. It's all, I'm doing it for the Empire. I'm doing it for, it's that whole, I'm loyal to this thing that's never going to be loyal to me. But that's the way it's supposed to be, that, the government bootlicking attitude about it. And she is in a moment where, you just committed you've kickstarted a genocide.
yeah.
And it's also caused the death of the only man who could have probably ever loved you.
Yeah.
So,
and I love that also kind of tees up the reckless decision she makes to confront Luthen by herself in quotes, as Krennic kind of calls out to her. Like, what possible reason would you have to do that apart from, like, your vanity and pride? And I know you didn't, like, you skipped through the, like, previously on Andor things, but one of the things they call out in the previously on package is in season 1, Partagaz telling her, next time, find your guy before you make him famous, because that's how she had failed with Axis in season 1, and why it got taken kind of off her plate was she spent 2 years hunting Axis and
building him up to be this legend.
Had nothing to show for it. So this was very much her saying, like, I've got him dead to rights, I'm going to go get him, not expecting him to take his own life in that moment. And to have, like, been enough ahead of, I mean, because she obviously doesn't know the Lonnie stuff, so she doesn't know that, like, they're pretty much burned, and have already been setting the wheels in motion to wipe the slate clean for them.
Yeah, but I mean, but also she does not, because this is something that's so very interesting about people who have shallow conviction, is that, or not, maybe not shallow conviction is probably the wrong term, because she's definitely committed to her
she's
cause.
committed to the cause.
Yeah.
She is so disgusted at the idea that she is going to be thought to be a rebel sympathizer or rebel traitor or something like that.
Yep. I think for me it's when, but here's the thing, she would never take her own life for the Empire.
No.
And that's the thing, is that she has no idea that Luthen is willing to take his own life for the rebellion.
Yeah.
And it is about, like, how far will you go for the things that you believe in? Luthen knows. He's Axis. Even though things have drifted away from Axis being the key focus, like the key center point of the rebellion, he still knows so much.
But I mean, just him knowing Yavin, if they can get that out of him, the rebellion is fucked.
Yep.
they take the Death Star there a couple days earlier. They don't ever need to question Leia. Maybe Alderaan ends up living another day, but the rebellion dies on Yavin.
Yep. But it also, in my mind, also shows that there is something about Luthen that is, he is a Saw Gerrera. He lives, breathes, and dies the rebellion. Yeah,
and he even when we see him in the end of the Coruscant stuff, or the end of the Senate stuff, Cassian saying like, you have to leave. They're going to be on to you. Like, and he's like,
they're going to hang you.
There's no Yavin for me. Like he's already resigned to. He's going to see this through to the end, and he's going to go out on his own terms. And like, fortunately, he also has Clea there to help him go out on his own terms, because they were definitely going to do whatever they could to try and save him and get him to answer their questions.
Yep. But I will say, like, the line where Cassian says, like, they'll hang you, and which is a note as well, because if we remember from season 1, that's how they executed his father.
Yeah.
And that's why he attacked them. That's why he went to juvie. That's the whole set of his, like, I've been in this rebellion since I was a kid. That's the moment where his father being hung. And so when he says, Luthen, they'll hang you, that to me hit a chord, because it's like this is how far he's come to see. Like, they might have bad, rough waters between the two of them. Yeah. But he sees Luthen as a father figure.
Yeah, it's like, I knew Luthen, the good and the bad.
Yep.
It's what he tells to the rebel leadership.
But when he says that to Luthen, and Luthen goes, that's the fate for both of us. Like, did you think this would end in any other way? Like,
yeah.
Just like when you came to me and you said you would be part of it, you knew this was the end point. Like, we will die for this. Because the story, even if we don't die in the rebellion, they'll never share our stories. They'll never share the stories of the assassin, the saboteur, the spy, Cassian Andor. They're never going to tell that story. They're never going to tell the story of Axis, the man who connected all the little pieces that were needed to make the rebellion begin. They'll never tell that story.
Yeah.
And that's the whole part of Andor, is that Andor is the unsung story. It's the unsung heroes getting their moment, even though they know their fate. And it's, so when he is like, yeah, I'm ready, like, that's the thing. Deidre cannot fathom that somebody who is, because she can't see, she sees so much of, I assume she sees so much of herself in him, of like, well, he would never kill himself. Doesn't even cross her mind.
Yeah.
And that's what her fault is. She doesn't realize how far he's willing to go.
Yeah. And I also love the in her interrogation from Krennic, I love the, like, Krennic being like, I should have known you were a scavenger, and her being like, I had to scavenger. Like, there's a lovely undercurrent there of the sexism of the
100%.
ISB, of course.
Oh yeah,
given that she's the only woman we've seen among these masses, for the most part. We get a couple, like, technicians and stuff like that here and there,
but they're technicians. They're not officers.
Exactly. Like,
she's the only supervisor.
Like, of course, I had to scavenge. You never would like look around you. I never had another chance. I love the indignity that she has in that, but because of that and all of it, like, I should have reported that. It's very much like you done fucked up. Like, you didn't see all the angles of how this could turn back on you. And yeah, you didn't know that Lonnie was a spy because you weren't looking at him, but he was right there under your nose the entire time, and he was in your system for 3 hours last night. And like the acting choice of Krennic putting his finger on her and just like pushing down with like just the lightest of like, like, how stupid could you be kind of thing.
This is
why, like, it's fascinating seeing how it ends. And then, like, even just a week ago, people being like, oh, maybe she's going to be like in Krennic, like now that Gore is done, maybe she's going to be in Krennic's inner circle. And so she goes down on Scarif or, as part of his, crew or something like that. It's like, no, Krennic would not deign to have her because she got reckless here.
But even more than that, why wasn't she part of that, like part of his inner circle after Gorm? Because why would he bother? It's, you accomplished the thing you needed to? Okay. A year later, she's been relegated to a different assignment. Like,
I think there was a potential universe in which she has proven herself. She did exactly what needed to happen on Gorn, on Gore, and she can kind of rise up through the ranks like that. She is like from the first batch of episodes, like she's the only one Krennic's actually interested in hearing. Like,
yeah,
all these other people are peacocks. You're the one that actually has a plan. Know when to tell it. I'm telling you to tell it to me right now, kind of thing.
Yep.
So I think he could have tried to like turn her into his like little apprentice, in a different universe.
Maybe.
But yeah, she done fucked up.
And she was doing this whole thing to finish her grudge against, like, that's another thing too. It's like Krennic doesn't respect her for grudges where Krennic has nothing but grudges. Mm-hmm. It's very much like, I hate the me I see in you. And in that moment when he's like doing that and says like, why you think I'm down here in this, like this, forgot the term he uses, but like this basement because of this, what would make me come down here? What's the word? Say the word. Death Star. Mm-hmm. Boom. Like, how do you even know that word? Like, and then he goes to, what's his name? I never remember his name because it's long and complicated. Qyburn's the guy. Partagast. He goes to Partagast and says, and Partagast is like, dude, I don't know how we've kept it quiet this long.
Yeah.
When you think about the scale and scope of the project, like, it's insane.
Yeah. And the idea, like, all right, like, we both have to make our cases to Palpatine now, and like Partagaz wishing Krennic the best of luck, kind of thing on that front, and obviously we will see Krennic kind of make his case not to Palpatine but to Vader instead. But
it's also interesting because, well, why is Krennic? Is it just because he's behind schedule? It's like, no, it's because of the security stuff that's leaked, and exactly. It's a whole lead up, and it gives a light to. Oh, like scheduling is why he's in the shit house?
They are pissed that things have not been on schedule and that this should have been done years ago, kind of thing. But yeah, especially.
But now there's the pressure.
Yeah, there's now leaks. There's now other people know, like, and you can't contain it. You gotta get a grip on this, or you're done.
Or we're gonna send in the head.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Is like they don't get a hold on the leak, and so Tarkin takes over the Death Star project, and Krennic dies on Scarif. Speaking of Partagaz, there, going back to, I wanted to touch on, like, I love that in trying to set up the cover story of like why are we hunting this lady down? Tell them it's a disease. Tell them that anybody who comes into contact with her will be infected, and it's a public health crisis kind of thing. And then when they're desperate to get anybody else on site because shit turned south because they didn't know a K2 droid was there helping, or Cassian was there ready to help Clay escape, they can't because everybody is out responding to calls about the health crisis, and it's so like he shot himself in the foot there, and that ultimately leads to the failed mission of capturing this asset.
He didn't see every outcome.
Yeah, and so he like
hoisted by his own petard.
I absolutely love that scene of like us getting the montage of scenes over Nemec's voice playing. And then it becoming a I forget the word. It's happening in the scene. Like somebody is listening to diegetic. The speech is happening diegetically in the scene because Partagaz is listening to it on his thing. So we get to hear that the Imperial officers know that there is this sentiment out there, and they know that this idea of like the empire and control is unnatural, and that has taken root, and that people are constantly out there fighting against the rebellion, or fighting for the rebellion against the empire, kind of thing.
But also, it's Pendergast accepting it at the end.
Yeah,
like, oh, it is impossible to, because it is unnatural, and it's like we tried to do the impossible, which was like try to build this authoritarian empire, and it didn't work out, and so. Do I go through the purpose of being arrested and a trial and all of that, or do
I know where we just sent Dedra to. Yep. I'm not going to go through that. I know what that system looks like. I'm not going to go to Palpatine and let him throw me out of building like I heard Mace Windu, suffered years ago. Right? Like I'm gonna take the easy way out.
And it's also a matter of like, well, now it can be. They can blame it on him, or they can say like, oh, he died of like by not making a big deal about his suicide, by like leave it. It lets them craft whatever narrative they need to around it.
Yeah,
also.
Exactly. They're never going to tell his story.
Nope.
Somebody, the guy who was sent to bring him in, probably just going to get promoted into that spot, and he's the next head on the chopping block.
Yep.
Or any number of the people we see in the conference room scene with Vader at the beginning of Vader and Tarkin at the beginning of A New Hope, like any of them are, another like Admiral Veers or somebody, like anybody is going to, step in to that slot because that's what the Empire does.
Everyone is a cog. Nobody is everyone is replaceable.
Yeah. But yeah, like going back to the gore stuff, just so deliciously paced, and like it's this tense buildup into the powder keg, and like they do such a great effective job of showing us all the pieces lay out that exactly how it's going to play out, but that doesn't make it any less daunting when we start to see all that. Like they've got the K2 droids there on site, so that's an inevitability. We see them set up the snipers around the building. We see the deliberately ineffective and fresh green people that are going to go out there and they're going to panic under pressure as soon as shit goes wrong, and they're going to kill these civilians like immediately. And even the sergeant being like, there's not a man among them. Are you going to be a problem? Do I need to like get rid of you? The guy who is there to be the trigger for Dedra, who is just like, this is just a job. What do you want? What I want is a comfortable ride home. I'm here to do this thing and then be done. I don't care about you. I don't care about this. I don't care about these people.
He's special ops.
I know what my job is here. My job is to foment this insurrection and make it look good for the cameras. And that's what he's there to do.
Oh yeah, and also what happens with these fresh recruits? Okay, well, we'll use one of our snipers to kill one of the recruits.
Exactly.
And that will make the rest of the recruits freak out.
Yeah, it doesn't, it doesn't matter which side takes the first shot. It doesn't matter which side takes the first casualty. So we're going to control both.
It's the Boston Massacre, man.
Yep.
It's, nobody knows who they threw rocks at these soldiers, like pelting them with bricks and stuff. And one of the soldiers shot, and they didn't know which one it was because in the confusion after everything, all they knew is that like a bunch of Bostonians were dead.
Yeah.
That's it.
The haunting beauty of the gore, singing their rebellion, like going from chanting like we are Gore, the galaxy is watching, to
their anthem?
Singing their anthem in Gorman. Obviously a very French influenced language, very much evoking the like, do you hear the people sing? Mm-hmm. The all the French resistance, French Revolution,
French partisans.
Yeah, exactly. Even people who were on opposite sides of how best to approach this a year ago are now allied and are fighting together, fighting alongside one another. They've got like, everybody's ready for things to pop off if it does, but they show up ready to be a peaceful protest. And then,
but it's a trap.
Also having Molotovs if they need them or anything like that. And then, yeah, like the sniper gets a shot off on their own people. Everybody panics. Gun, like, shots fired. Get him out of here. And everybody, then they just immediately start shooting the people that are there singing.
Yep.
All the while, Cassian is watching this whole thing.
Yep.
I absolutely loved the payoff of the bellhop from his first adventure, recognizing him even if he didn't recognize the bellhop, to basically hide the fact that Cassian was there. Like, he's smart enough to know, well, the last time you were here, it was as a fashion designer. That's clearly not who you're presenting yourself as now. So I'm going to go ahead and not put you in the system, because if I put you in the system, we're going to have to report you. And then him being the one to feed the Rebellions Are Built on Hope line.
Oh, he also lets Cassie know, you only have tonight. Tomorrow, she will report you.
Yeah, exactly.
He plays it like, well, they're closed, so it doesn't really matter. We can just report it in the morning. He goes, she will report you.
Yeah.
Like, it will happen. So whatever you're doing, you have to do it now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Him, like, getting people away from the door, and then throwing
a grenade
out there to to blast. Like, it was an interesting call, because I feel like you could have opened the door and gotten a little bit more damage. But I mean, with the chaos of everything going on, hey, probably better to create an explosion that is a distraction from the massacre happening outside, as opposed to,
and lets you and everybody else in that,
some of your own other people or something.
And also, you and everybody else in that lobby now have like a smoke screen to get out the back.
Yeah.
Like that's how I interpret
I definitely read it as he dead. That was a sacrificial explosion, but
it could have been.
Since we never see him again.
But like, it's not like he like took it and like charged at the window. He threw it and he was behind the desk. So I assume good chance he survived, but that's incident. But did he survive the genocide? Good chance he didn't.
Even because he does kind of a little prayer to himself before he throws it. So I definitely read it as like he was resigned. He wasn't going to get out of there, but maybe he can do something with this. But yeah,
I took it as it could go either way.
But yeah, like that happening, the moment when they're like, send out the droids kind of thing, and we see the droid just boot a barricade in and then cause one of the resistance fighters to go flying away. So the droid, probably K2SO. K2SO is definitely the one that, like, when Cyril walks into a room,
looks at him. Yep, that's him. 100%.
It was definitely.
You can't
him.
tell me anything different. I don't care.
No, they've already done.
They
like
confirmed it. Okay.
They like, people have already done like a breakdown of like the marks on K2SO versus the marks on that droid, and they're like, yeah, it's definitely him. He's the one that's
cool.
that stays looking at Cyril.
Is he the one that like just palms what's her name and just murders her?
I don't know if he was that one.
Because I had to break it to you. That's a K move right there. Yeah, that's a straight up K move.
I absolutely love. Are you with us? No.
Boom. So good. So good. Alan Tudyk's K2SO is one of the best fucking performances.
Yeah, I love the justification they give for it, with like the droid splicers basically being like, so we didn't fully reprogram him, but we've we've
introduced a new droid mind to it.
Yeah,
so
we've squashed part of his programming, but he's still going to have like impulse, like he's going to have no impulse control kind of thing. And so like that's why K2 is the weird way that K2 is. Absolutely love that.
He doesn't like, he'll follow orders, but he'll be snippy about it.
Yeah.
And also shout out to that actor who looked like friggin' like Dr. Brown or something, like hair wild goggles, the whole shtick. I loved it. I'm like, man, this is why the Rebellion's cool, because they just got some wild characters in it.
Yeah. It wasn't in this batch of episodes? Yeah, I guess it was before everything pops off on Gore. What did you think of the Force healer kind of seeing like a brighter future or not a brighter future,
the messenger,
but seeing Cassian as a messenger and kind of being pulled to Cassian?
Listen, I get why they did it. They want it to be like the will of the Force is like Cassian's life has been leading up to the moment where he can get the message about the Death Star out, and like that idea of like the message of hope and all of that. I understand why they did it. I'm either way. I could go either way on it. Like, I don't care for it, but I don't hate it. It felt like some schlocky Star Wars stuff. I appreciated that they were like, this woman's just straight up like, I'm just a Force user. Like, she's not a Jedi. She's just a lady who learned how to heal people. And like, she does her best to try to like tap into the Force, but Like this is very much like low level Force user. Like probably would it like maybe like she's old enough that she wasn't picked up by Jedi, obviously. But like yeah, I like, and I think that it also speaks to the greater aspect of the Force as a religion.
Sure. Yeah.
And the aspects, because that is like people are like, well, the lights are dark side. It's like these are just religious aspects of looking at the Force as a natural source of power in the universe. The Force is just the Force.
Yeah.
So, and I think that what this does is it does establish that like the Force does have a will and it works its will through people. And clearly they're trying to say Andor was chosen. I don't like that because I think the great thing about Andor is he's just a guy.
So for me, I don't read it as, I mean, I guess, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, if you're buying into that as the Force element, then yes, everything is feeding into the Force, and the balancing of the story that we get in the original trilogy, kind of everything leads up to, Luke bringing balance to the Force or whatever. But I appreciate it as, not so much the Force is guiding Cassian, so much as like this woman is a bit of a like it's basically the like equivalent of like a soothsayer. Like she can see that something is destined to happen with him, and the bigger thing, even as Cassian can kind of remain a skeptic, and maybe it kind of plants that seed for when he meets Chirrut in Rogue One, and the Force is with me, I am one with the Force, kind of all that stuff. Maybe it's helping set him on the path, but really it's there for Bix, and to give Bix a like she believes it, and she believes that Cassian won't follow that path and won't do whatever he is destined to do or needs to do if she's still around. Cassian is because I think she's seen it before, where like he loves her too much that he will forego everything for her if she asked. And so that's why I love that, like, that kind of causes her to make the call to leave. I'm making the choice for both of us. Like,
I also think this is where
this resistance, this rebellion needs you. And we like, because we get those scenes of like those scenes previously setting them up, in their, safe house in Coruscant, where they've had these kinds of conversations and stuff like that. And it's like, he is clearly the one that has the know-how and the importance, and Bix can do what, is asked of her, but Cassian has the mind for it. He can be the leader that the rebellion needs. And if she's the doting wife waiting at home for her or something like that, and he's worried about that, then he's never going to commit fully in the way that he needs to. So she makes that kind of call, as heartbreaking as it is, especially when we find out what we know at the end, of like she had a kid.
I think she knows when she makes that choice. I think she knows she's pregnant.
Yeah,
and she knows if Cassian loves me enough to where Cassian's like, we should leave, because he tells her we should leave. Yeah. Like, we've done enough. And for her to know, oh, by the way, I'm pregnant, there's no way he's going to stay in the rebellion. She has to make that choice for them.
Yeah.
And
it's that moment, like, he's saying all this and he's like, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm just listening. And it's like, she's making the decision in that moment.
In that moment, like, she's like, I'm pregnant. I can't tell him. I need to leave tonight.
Yeah.
And it is a sad, very, very sad thing that is part of the, like, great stories have comedy and tragedy. And the tragedy of circumstances, of time, the right person, wrong place, like all these things that add up to these very tragic stories, they're part of what makes storytelling human. Because life is nothing but a series of happenstance, tragedy, and comedy. Yeah. It's just what it is.
I also love, it's such a small little detail, but I absolutely love that they have it in there. One of the last things we see Cassian do is water his plants.
Yep.
Like, it's just a lovely little, like, he doesn't, like, obviously it's reinforcing, like, he doesn't think that he's not going to really be coming home, and he's going to like this mission he's going on is the beginning of the end for him. But we know it, and so it makes that like just a little bit sadder. But still, like, yeah, so much beauty in them playing with, we know how this story goes. We know what happens from here. And so kind of setting up little things like that. Absolutely love the, going back to the Senate stuff. I love the, like, immediately after all the gore stuff to go into like, all right, now you got to get Mon Mothma out of the Senate because Gore has, tipped the scales. Mon Mothma is like Mon and Bale have, colluded to
get her some time to speak.
To sneak in some time.
As somebody who pays attention to like congressional politics, this is like congressional politicking 101. Like, know the things. By the way, he mentioned this, which means
he's been calling this an emergency and nobody objected. So I'm going to invoke this procedure in the case of emergencies.
And nobody's objecting to me. Great. I'm going to yield my time to Senator Mothma. Yeah. And it's just parliamentary efficiency, but it's also, when I mentioned up at the top of it,
it's like, it's a moment where I'm like, oh, like Sorkin,
that's
stepped away from writing The West Wing to come write this little bit of Star Wars.
Gilroy politics. Was like, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Sorkin just walks in and says, walk with me.
Yeah.
He does a walk and talk with him and tells him like, this is how these things work. And it's just, it's perfect. Because that's how politics is. It's, you have procedures and policies, and it's not, and like it determines how things are introduced. And yeah, I loved also how they just straight up, but one of the things I love about this moment is when I mentioned up at the top, like, we may never be asked, or we may never have the opportunity to make certain choices that help people out, that help fight against authoritarianism. But it can be as easy as locking a door and losing the key.
Yep.
The only reason she gives that speech.
Why is this locked? Because we fixed it. It's been broken all year. Yeah, we know. We fixed it. We finally fixed it. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. They're like, well, how do I get it? Well, you need the key.
Yeah.
Well, give me the key.
It's over.
Well, we took it up to the supervisor's office because that's where the key is supposed to be after we fixed it.
Yeah.
And for him to then have to like run up there, and they look at each other, and it's like, yes. What is the term compliance? Not lethal compliance, but like being so compliant to the point where you're interfering with things.
Yeah.
Something compliance. I forgot the term, but it is. But that's what it is. They're being compliant with their jobs. They're doing their job, but they know that what they're doing is for that purpose. Yeah. And it's also everything going on with Organa's people.
Yeah.
And one of them being a Imperial spy.
Yeah.
And like that whole thing, and we don't know which of these three people. It's like a shell game basically.
Yeah.
Of who's the spy. And then it leads to then like, and then Cassie is straight up, Mon Mothma.
We don't have time for this. She shoots her and then they leave.
Yeah.
She's an Imperial spy.
Oh no, she's a rebel spy.
Yeah, she's a rebel spy, yeah.
And
because she outs herself and says, I'm an ISB agent, you're coming with me. And
says it quietly enough, but
Semaj kind of throws, like, here's that, and is like, oh, no, you're not. Rebel spy! And Cassian just
and then that's Cassian, like, shoots her. It says, we don't have time for this. Shoots her. Yeah. And it's a great moment because also it's like...
And Semaj is like, I'll take care of this, go.
Yeah. Also,
after he's pissed off Mothma because he's betrayed her trust after,
because it turns out he was
Luthen's, being one of Luthen's agents for years.
Yeah, he's been Luthen's agent at her side to make sure she stays safe. You'll never know the sacrifices he's made to keep you safe, is what Luthen tells her.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant, but it's also he loves her.
Yeah.
Like he is in love with her, and it's very clear. Like there's been something between them. Whether it's come into fruition or it's just been mutual feelings, but that's why it hurts even more. It's like, you're not just my driver that turns out you're a spy.
He's not the driver.
No. You're not just my driver. My driver that's been with me for years, all of that.
Yeah.
It's deeper than that. And it cuts deeper on Mothma when she realizes that. It's brilliant.
So I'm saying he wasn't the driver.
No. I know he's not the driver.
Okay.
I'm saying her reaction to finding out her driver was an Imperial Imperial snitch.
Yeah.
is one thing. When she finds out he's Luthen's
that
snitch,
was like he's obvious. He's so bad at this. It's obvious. I need to request a new driver. They might send somebody competent.
Yep.
I love that a little bit.
That's a great line, but that shows you that this guy that I've known for years, who's driven me for years, that we saw in season 1, that's not who hurts. That's not where the pain is. The pain is when she, like, the guy that she probably has feelings for as well, turns out he's been with Luthen since the wedding, which is like her weakest point as a person. Mrs. Luthen, like, my friend who I've known since childhood.
When when Luthen killed my childhood friend. Yeah, that's that. You took his place, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's such a that entire, it shows the fractures that are in the rebellion for sure.
Yeah, it's and also her seeing Cassian kill the ISB agent and then her driver.
Dude, the way he kills her driver by being like, what's his name? What's his name? Tell me his name. Tells him his name.
Cloris.
I found her. Cloris.
I found her. What?
Because it disarms him. He doesn't know if Cloris is armed or not, but now he's confused Cloris. Cloris doesn't know what's going on, so he gets the jump on him. And I'm like...
the like, who is he? Oh, you know he's an ISB agent? Okay, then he's dead.
Yeah, he's
like,
dead.
Yeah, it like that moment. But it is that, like, that's the first time the rebellion has become real to Mon.
To Mon Mothma, yeah.
Like, bodies, like, she has made this speech that has put a target on her back, and immediately she sees bodies start to fall.
Yep.
Their bodies on the right side that are falling, but, like, it's the first time she's been a protected senator. Like, this kind of experience has never reached the halls of Coruscant Senate. So yeah, the fact that immediately she is thrown into that world, it, you know,
and that's
disarms
what he says,
her, shakes her, and I love the welcome to rebellion line we get, but then, like, in the safe house, like, her freaking out there, but also saying, like, I don't know how to ever repay you, like, having that conversation of, like, oh, you're, like, you've been here before, because, like, Cassian knows immediately where the cups are or something like that.
Yep.
You've been here before, yeah, because it's the same safe house we've seen them stay in.
And that's when she realizes, that's a moment, it's like, you've been doing this the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, this place hasn't seen anybody here for years, or for like a year plus.
Yeah.
But you know where the cups are, so that tells me you've been here before, which is like a reminder to Mon Mothma. The rebellion didn't start today when you gave this speech.
Yeah.
It started a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
what can I ever do to repay you? Make it worth it.
Yeah. That's it. And I, like, honestly, I love, because this also leads up to, well, it makes sense. Why does Mon Mothma pull Cassian aside in Rogue One and be like, well, I trust you. Mm-hmm. And then we get, like, why is that now a split between him and his other, like, between Mon Mothma and his commander? His commander tells him to do something else. Why it kind of splits him on it is because these are both leaders in the rebellion. Yeah, but, like, they're also people, like, it's interesting. Andor is somebody who, for all intents and purposes, should be on that council.
Yeah, it's especially, having just rewatched Rogue One myself. Draven in Rogue One is very much like, your mission is to kill Galen Erso.
Yeah.
And Mon Mothma is like, there might be another way, because that's the world she comes from. Draven comes from the military world. Mon comes from the Senate, and knows that Cassian knows when to straddle those lines.
Yes.
Knows when to spare people, knows when to kill people, like, because of this relationship that we've seen.
And she trusts him.
Yeah.
And that's why she goes to Vel and says, Cassie, I need you to ask Cass. I can't tell you what he told us, but I need you to have him tell you, and I need you to do that. And she goes, what?
I need you to help me believe the story.
Yeah, I need you. She goes, I need you to help me believe him. And it's because she's like, I want to believe him.
Yeah.
But I need you to help me.
I don't have any reason to think you'd be lying to me, but I know Luthen would lie, so I need you to be the filter there of, like, did Luthen tell Cassian the truth?
Yeah. You knew Luthen, you knew Cassian before, like, back in the day. You've known them both for years. You know when something's BS or not, because that's why you left, is that and your girlfriend died. Because a stupid rebel accidentally shot her. Yeah, like, that's an entire point of that episode, is this last episode is, yeah, like, is this for real, or is it Cassian lashing out because Luthen's dead? And for her to come back and to be like, Yeah. And like it is. And like that's all Mothma needs to wheel and deal her way the way she learned in the Senate to get even Organa on board.
Yeah. The one you don't like is here.
But then you mentioned it earlier, and I was like, oh, I'll brush past it because I wanted to bring it up now. When he says, well, if I go out, I want to go out swinging. And he, like, one, we know he dies on Alderaan.
Yeah.
He doesn't go out swinging.
It is the tragedy that is like cemented in Rogue One. I have to get back home to Alderaan, but I'm leaving you my best, the person I trust with my life in Leia. And so, yeah, he gets written off in Rogue One, and we know exactly where his story ends there.
It ends there. Like, I want to go down swinging, and for him to be like, I think you would have gotten along with Luthen more than you think. Because, Organa was not part of Luthen's Axis. He joined the rebellion based on his connection to Mothma. And the fact that he was one of the senators who signed, I mentioned this like a couple weeks ago, there's a petition that was signed to try to convince the Emperor to release his emergency powers. At the end, that's what the deleted scene in Revenge of the Sith is surrounded about. Because they get Senator Amidala, Organa and Mon Mothma are all part of this group that are like, hey, he needs to release these emergency powers. That's an entire thing. There's like 16 of them, I think, that sign it. It puts a target on their back, but it also is like one of the first stepping stones for the rebellions formation, because that's what gets Organa and Mothma and Amidala all in the same room together. And it kind of like leads into that. And then when Amidala dies, it leaves Organa and Mon Mothma as kind of like the leaders of that faction in the Senate.
Yep.
It's fantastic. Like the building here is fantastic. Benjamin Blatt is rad as hell. I love him. Jimmy Schmidt is the actor who normally plays Organa, right?
No, double check. Jimmy Smits.
Sorry. Does an incredible Jimmy Smits impression when he's Organa. Does a great job with it. He does a great, his interpretation of Organa I like just as much. I like Schmitz because, it's the classic. He's been there since, what was it, episode 2? He's been Organa. Yeah. So like, I love him for that reason. But Benjamin Blatt could have also had gotten that role.
Benjamin Bratt.
What I said Platt again, didn't I?
I think you said Blatt.
Oh, Blatt. Yeah.
I couldn't quite tell, but I heard there wasn't an R there.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Benjamin Bratt. Could have been Organa. Who knows? In another version of our reality. The one I originally come from. Maybe that is the case. I'm joking. It's not. Sometimes I do feel like I've fallen through dimensions. Sometimes though, how the hell did I end up in this godforsaken timeline?
Sure.
We often wonder that, but anyway. But hey, we got Andor.
We got Andor. We got the best of the best Star Wars stuff. It strikes me because originally the show was pitched as a potential 5-season show, and I imagine if it had been that show, each of these 3 episodes would have been stretched out into tell a full season.
Yeah,
I love that they didn't end up doing that.
Yes.
I love that they were like, hey, let's learn from what really worked in season 1 of people really love this Aldhani story. People really love the Narkina story. Let's tell small chunks of Andor's life here in the lead up to the events of Rogue One. So let's just let's set this framework for season 2 of each 3-episode arc is going to be a story from 1 year leading up to the events of Rogue One. And you still see kind of Cassian's arc. You still see Mon Mothma's arc. You see Luthen's arc over those 4 years. One of the things I guess we didn't touch on is how at the end of his rope Luthen was.
Oh yeah,
and
Luthen
that's, I think, something that does also feed into okay, Lonnie has just told me all this stuff. I'm not gonna make it out of here. I've got to really hammer this home with Clea, and I'm gonna go clean the shop up. You need to get out of here, Clea.
But not only that, he kills Lonnie.
Yeah, obviously.
Straight up murders, because he realizes in that moment.
That's a loose end. We're exposed.
When he says, what about your family? Well, I've stashed my family somewhere safer right now. So it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not putting, if you die here, like who knows what happens to your family, but at least they're not gonna get like a target on them right away. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's such a he's at his in the last trilogy of two trilogies of episodes ago when the gala episode.
Yeah.
We saw Luthen is at his wit's end because it's like there's too many plates spinning.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep too many lies straight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all of that is happening. It's like we're getting all this information, and he goes, but it's too much.
Yeah.
We don't have Axis has taken on too much. There's too many members and parts of the rebellion for a 2-person team to keep spinning anymore.
Yeah. And I love like their dynamic was always interesting. And so I love that, especially as you touched on, like, Elizabeth Dulau, I believe, so impressed, Tony Gilroy, that he just kind of kept expanding this part and went from, hey, instead of just being the assistant, you're now his basically adopted daughter, and here's kind of
second in command. Yeah,
we get that backstory. We get the montage, but the scenes, the flashback scenes of Luthen kind of training her as a child, and kind of her growing up and all that stuff. Potential. I don't know if it's Naboo that they're on when they blow up that bridge.
It is Naboo.
Was it? Like, it definitely looks like Naboo architecture.
No, that's the bridge in Naboo.
Okay.
I don't know if it's covered in Amidala's funeral scene, but I believe that's the bridge that her funeral procession goes down in Naboo.
Yeah. Whether it's Naboo or some other high class area, I appreciate that, like, oh, he's been this guerrilla fighter for years and kind of trained her and said, like, look around because you have to, like, observe what's important because so many people don't. And that's like, we have to be better than that. We have to, take in what we're fighting for.
Also, I love how he goes, then do it.
Yeah.
Press the button. And then she goes to do it and he takes it away from her.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it's like, this is the part of Luthen that is a father, and not just a mentor.
Yeah, or like you said, I could do it. I lie. Get used to it.
Love that scene, like that part of that scene so much. But I love how he goes to press it, and he goes, "Don't look."
Yeah. Okay, now look. Yeah.
Now look.
It is that, like, protecting her from giving up that part of her soul just yet.
Yep.
You're still a kid. You're not, like, I don't want you to actually blow up, dozens of people and
including some civilians. We saw civilians on that part of the bridge too.
Yeah. So yeah, don't look. Okay, now you can, like, see. And it like just the, like, I love,
but also training her not to look and give, like, tip her hand.
Exactly.
She knew what was happening.
I love the, like, already the fact that they're very casually leaving that area when everybody else is freaking out tips the hand anyway.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that there is still some, like, everybody's freaking out, so you can get away with that because nobody's going to be like, oh my God, yeah, I was running, but then I saw this weird old guy and his daughter, maybe, just very casually. I think they probably had something to do with it.
No.
Where were you? Oh, well, we were, like, well far from the bridge, but we saw it, on the veranda. Like, that's never going to happen.
Never.
So they did have, they were positioned in a place that they could kind of get away with that. But it was the, like, I appreciated the juxtaposition of that. The, like,
cool guys walk away from explosions moment that they have. Yeah.
A little bit. But yeah, so I love that. I love seeing kind of the introduction or the, the teases of his eventual antiquities, front of him selling these things to, whatever junk vendors he can find. But then also Clea really continuing to get radicalized of, like, stormtroopers, they, like, a sniper took out one guy and they've brought, 10 people to a firing line. So they clearly all didn't do it, but they're all just being killed by stormtroopers.
And there's kids.
And including kids, yeah.
And
nobody's safe.
And he's like, let's go. And she goes, no.
Yeah, you can go. I'm staying, yeah.
I'm going to see this happen. And he goes, fine, you're on your own. And it's like, he knows she'll catch up to him, but
yeah,
he also, like,
he's seen it enough. He's probably been on the wrong side of that firing line enough to, like, he knows what's going to happen. he doesn't need to sit there and watch it again.
But it's important for Clea in this moment.
If she needs to see it, then she can see it, and yeah, she'll catch up.
Yep. I think that's such an important moment for her character where she sees she already knows her people were massacred.
Yeah.
And also man, did that bring back some I forgot what the operation was called, but it was an operation where basically, and it was not the only one of its kind, but it was an operation in Vietnam where U.S. soldiers basically were just massacring a village. And the only reason we know about it is because one of the helicopter pilots and his 2 gunners broke protocol and turned their protected a trench filled with huddled masses that were about to be murdered, and trained their guns on their own comrades to keep them from murdering these people. It was a whole thing. There was a trial about it. He got court-martialed out, and was later vindicated years later, decades later. But yeah, it's one of those stories where a lot of atrocities happened in Vietnam. We know about them now for sure, but
yeah, and that was
one.
That is the eternal impetus for this series.
Yep.
Despite fucking morons who are keep politics out of my Star Wars. Star Wars has always been political.
Wars is its name.
If you don't think that, you're the dumbest fucking person on the planet, or you're a 5-year-old who thinks things are shiny and cool, you will learn that there are politics in Star Wars.
Was it Elon Musk or somebody who said that on Twitter? And Star Wars,
a lot of people have done that.
Yeah. Well, the Star Wars account responded back, being wars are in our name. It's always political.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It is such a great art. Always reflects life. But so rarely does great art earnestly and not in a high horse fashion speak truth to power, which is crazy because it's coming from Disney. And I know it's kind of like an oxymoron because of that. But the idea is that, you mentioned it up at the top, not the top, but you mentioned Stellan Skarsgård said, we wrote, this was written years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just how these stories about people fighting and struggling to maintain freedom and truth fight against authoritarianism and lies. And it's just this eternal struggle between control, which is unnatural, and freedom, which is true.
Yeah. Tony Gilroy has talked a lot in his, kind of as he's been doing press and stuff, this, he has been fascinated, and he studied revolutions and resistances and fascism and all those kinds of topics for many, many years. And this was the, biggest opportunity he's ever had to put all that into practice. And so he basically threw it all in there, everything in the kitchen sink. And yeah, it has a Star Wars coat of paint on it, but it's it's all based on real movements and real resistances and real, events and stuff like that. So
there's that interview with James Cameron and George Lucas where straight up he goes, I feel it has, I forgot what James Cameron brings up for the rebels. And he goes, well, in my day, it was the Viet Cong.
Yeah.
And straight up saying the rebellion was the Viet Cong and the empire was America. There you go. That's what you need. The guy who wrote it said, I grew up through Vietnam. I know what Vietnam looked like. I know the truth about Vietnam. We were the imperial power trying to control and exploit a country of people. And it is what it is. That is such that when that interview happened, it was a massive bomb on people. But the fact that anybody could possibly claim that Star Wars isn't political, that Star Wars is not inherently in its DNA, the most political shit out there.
Yeah. The
2 most political sci-fi shows are Star Wars and Star Trek. And Star Trek is about a utopian communist society.
Yeah.
What's that? If we supply everybody's needs, we can go to space and go on treks through space. It's not wars. It's a trek through space. Because guess what? We have peace at home. Because everybody has their stuff provided for them. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Any final favorite moments or thoughts or scenes or anything you want to shout out before we dive into the grades?
What was his fashion designer name? Something Verse.
No, something Sky.
Sky.
Varian Sky.
Varian Sky.
Varian Sky, yeah.
Varian Sky. That entire outfit, persona, spy thing, my favorite fucking thing. Because the way he coifs his hair for that assignment is like Diego Luna looks like a fucking supermodel, and it's incredible. It's my favorite thing still from this, which is a dumb thing to say, but like one of my favorite things from the show was just the absolute style, the way that people's like clothing evolved over time, everything from that like top to bottom style of capturing, whether it's the rural kind of like farmer style that they had in the first 3 episodes to like what we have going forward. Like I loved the aesthetic that they were able to build to kind of like flesh out, hey, this is what regular people in the Star Wars galaxy wear. Not everybody wears flowing robes and like, you know, crisp suits and stuff like that. It's like sometimes people just wear things. But also, here's what high fashion in Star Wars looks like, and it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I love, like, I mean, there's obviously just so many great things. I think one of my favorite beats that we get in this last little bit that we touched on, but is just like, yeah, that's fitting, is that moment where we do see Dedra in what sure looks like the Narkina prison, if not Narkina, a prison in that same vein. She's wearing kind of the same outfit. We see the lights go out and the floor turn on, so she's basically, she can't leave that bunk.
There's no one way out for her.
Yeah.
She deserves it.
Yep.
Like she gets that. Yeah, she deserves it. Absolutely.
For sometimes death would be a kindness, and for all the things she has put other characters through, for all the people who died in her crusade, I love that is like a poetic bit of justice.
Absolutely.
For her character. And yeah, so many great things. Also, shout out, we definitely didn't really dive into it, but shout out to Clea's like one woman trek through that hospital.
Oh god, it was so badass. It was so cool.
Yeah, like playing into all of the lessons that Luthen had taught her over the years. From the like, hey, I'm gonna grab this patient, and you know this patient is completely clueless, but I'm gonna use them as like a front. Oh, I'm not going to just leave them there. I'm going to walk up the stairs and, oh no, I'm just trying to get to blah, blah, blah. No, this is a restricted area. Boom, you're dead. Get out of my way. Yep. Setting the charge. I mean, the fact that they come in the next episode and like, we think it's a team of 3.
That was so cool. That was so cool.
Yeah.
They're like, we think it's a team of 3. And it's like, damn.
We watched it be a team of 1 because of how ruthlessly effective
also there was only one camera that got a good look at her. She kept her face she cheated away from the camera at every point,
and in that shot, because they show it like on repeat, it's almost like she took that moment to taunt them.
Yep.
It is that brief like, I know this is only going to give you a second of screen time on my face, but that's fine. You need to know that it was me.
You took
like,
my father away from me.
You just made me do the hardest thing I'll ever have to do, of killing my father figure. Fuck you.
Yep.
Like such beautiful, so great. And then like
the way she never stopped looking at his face as she unhooked him from it.
Yeah. Also the tension of the ISB crew closing in on Cassian and Melshi and Clea have just gotten there. They, cut the comms, and we see K2 be like, that's not right. That's not good.
Yep.
He sees the shuttle pull up. He's like, well, I've got to go help kind of thing. We joked about it already. Like are you with us? No. Just throws the guy over and then basically does that a couple more times and just decimates people.
When he picks up the supervisor and holds him up as a human shield and just like, bam, 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 bam.
And we're just seeing like the body's already dead.
Yes.
Like he died from K2 basically slamming him against the wall and like picking him up.
Yep.
And then he just used it. And so we just see his like limp, pathetic body just being flailed around and riddled with blaster bolts. And then just like the like, I cleared a path. Let's go kind of thing. Absolutely love all of that. And that moment of like us seeing Partagaz with the comms people basically being like, we need more people. Get people there. They're all out. They're all out hunting down the disease, and they took tips on the disease.
The next unit is 20 minutes out.
Yeah. Okay. We got priority, but we see that priority crew coming in just as our U-wing starts flying away. Absolutely.
Push priority. Well, we have to. We're pushing priority. Yeah. Like, this is bureaucracy. This is what happens, man.
Also love the quick little moment of like, the pure happenstance, like, fortune of them investigating the comm at Luthen's thing when Clay goes to like send another message. So they're like, right after they say, I would need a connection to be able to trace it, they get that connection. But I love the lady there being like, it's really impressive. They were wired into, a tower next to, so they've been on like Imperial comms for who knows how long. And the guy just being like,
she's so good. I have been in that situation before where you're like, hey, this is really amazing.
I'm nerding out for this because this is really impressive what they did. Oh, not the time.
Not the time. Yep.
Also, I want to shout out that performer. You haven't seen it yet, but they are featured in one of this season's episodes of Doctor Who as like one of the featured players. And so like she popped up. I'm like, why do I recognize you? What are you like?
Nice.
I just have seen you as an actor.
Nice.
What else have you been in? And then like I looked at her IMDb and I was like, oh, you were in the episode of Doctor Who from 2 weeks ago. Exactly. That's
cool.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Good for you for getting like a 1-2 punch here on Disney Plus. So yeah, that was a fun little beat. But yeah, so many great things. I love the humor of them playing that little card. Like if it's Sabacc or if it's
Sabacc.
It didn't feel like Sabacc because it felt more like Liar's Dice, if anything, like 5/5s, 10/10s.
It might have been Liar's Dice, actually. I think you're right.
I mean, I don't know if it'd be 10/10s, but it's some variation of like, it seemed like that kind of thing. Because K2 gets into this whole thing like, I don't understand why you would make a wager like that, why you would risk that, or what, like humans, you can't, we're unpredictable, Kay, you got to understand that. And he's like, we've played 832 games. I think that's a fair sample size. Like, I love that whole scene. And very much like Cassian and Melshi just razzing K2.
Yep.
Absolutely like establishing what this relationship, what this dynamic is that we already know from the movie, but like it plays into that fun little bit.
Yeah, it was not Sabacc they were playing.
Okay.
It definitely wasn't. I'm looking over the rules of Sabacc again, and it's like, yeah, no, there's no way that we were doing it. I mean, it had to have been like Liar's Dice.
The like Sabacc is a weird thing because there's a bajillion different variants of Sabacc over
there's Corellian Spike,
years,
there's Corellian Spike Sabacc, there's a lot of different Sabacc.
This could have been Yavin Sabacc, who knows, whatever.
It could have been, yeah.
It's very much they're playing some sort of game and just kind of messing with K2, and I absolutely love it.
The point of it was the humans are messing with the droid.
Yeah. and then like, carefully, he's trying to droid you. Was like a great little like beat.
So good.
Yeah, just so many, like, the show does such a great job of having everything except lightsabers and Jedi, and the fact that it tells the best Star Wars story without those two seemingly critical elements is, I think, incredibly impressive. I mean, like, it is like Rogue One has that save the Darth Vader scene at the end kind of thing, and it's such a testament to the way you can, in the same way that like Marvel has told some really interesting stories in different genres, but all within like the superhero vein. But like, Winter Soldier being an incredible like political espionage thriller kind of thing. Ant-Man being just a straight up heist comedy or something like that. Like you can tell very fascinating stories in a galaxy far, far away with that as like the setting and the backdrop. And I absolutely love how effectively this tells a drama that has heart, that is about rebellion. It is about an empire being too bloated and too bureaucratic to be able to stamp out the threat being able to rely on its nimbleness and its flexibility and its place in the natural order of things, as Nemec kind of highlights. Like, the Empire is unnatural. What the rest of the galaxy is trying to do against the Empire is the natural order of things. Like, we aren't meant to be controlled in that way. And so I love that, like, it is all the little things that can lead up to the big moment of a torpedo going down a vent to destroy a space station.
I think also this is one of the things you mentioned it just a bit ago, but it's something that I said originally, like why I like Solo as a story. Why some of the best Star Wars stuff is the stuff without Jedi and lightsabers. It's the story about humans in this galaxy far, far away trying to just make something happen. And I've said it before that. I said it during season 1 of Andor as well, when we recapped all of that this is why Star Wars is such great storytelling and like as like a ground for storytelling. You can tell like it's a fertile ground to grow and raise stories through it. And Andor, I think, is showing that the setting and the themes and the story of Star Wars is more important than the mythology and the lightsabers and all of that.
Yeah.
It speaks to, I think, what Rian Johnson did not delicately try to also tell, but did it in his own way, was also trying to say that as well, that there are deeper themes and contexts that are greater than good versus just good versus evil.
Yeah.
That like so many people cling to as the light side versus dark side. It's a story about space monks with laser swords.
But also, yeah, it's it fits into that like the Brennan Lee Mulligan meme of like, but capitalism's the real bad guy.
Yeah.
Because, the arms manufacturers are making money off those X-Wings and those TIE fighters.
Absolutely.
Also they're selling shit to both sides.
Yep. Also speaks to what Brennan Lee Mulligan also said, which is, what is it? Something comes before dogma. Like, you were an asshole before you were a fascist.
Oh, yeah.
That aspect of it. Like, yeah, we see it. Cyril was
personality comes
personality,
before dogma, maybe?
Yes, personality comes before dogma. Like, you were an asshole before. Like, Cyril becomes... Now, granted, I mentioned earlier, we saw Cyril's line. Turns out it's genocide. That's not a great line. Like, it's good that he had a line that that was drawn for him that he couldn't go over, but that's not, like, a reasonable, not asshole person would have done that much earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it speaks to, and I think it speaks volumes to these characters are, at the end of the day, Andor's still who Andor was in season 1. In the first episode, we see him. He's a scrappy guy who is who's just trying to make things happen. And what those things happen and what those things are that he's trying to make happen change over time. But who he is at his core, like, he becomes a better version of himself. But he's true to who he is the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, I think by the end he's fully bought in. He's fighting for the cause.
Yes.
It is that, like, it's that the scene he has with Mothma and the senators being like, I worked with Luthen. I made my choice 2 years ago when I left him behind and joined this. This is the cause I fight for now. But like, we can't escape that he is, ingrained in the DNA of this place as well, kind of like that. So he is like, and it's obviously where we see him in Rogue One of like everything he's done for the rebellion, and he has, he's willing to make that sacrifice and those choices.
He sacrificed more than he'll ever know.
Yeah,
it's the flip side of like you'll never know the sacrifices that were made to keep you safe. Not even Andor knows the sacrifices that he fully made.
Yep.
And that's part of his story. It's one of the things that makes him a hero.
This also makes me so much much more appreciate in retrospect that they don't have like Cassian and Jyn kiss on.
Yeah, 100%, right? Yeah.
Like, because it's like, great. Like, there wasn't this moment at the end of your life that you kind of betrayed Bix.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also think it's that was one of my favorite things about Rogue One, which is this was never a love story. This was two people who...
there were definitely like... There were shots or like cut scenes where that absolutely went a more romantic route.
Including a cut scene of them kissing on the beach when the explosion happens.
Yeah.
In Witta's version, it doesn't happen. Then when they brought somebody else in to do some rewrites, somebody else stuck at those romance scenes in, and then the third person who came in eventually said, hey, scrap all those. I don't think they work. And like they recorded stuff and they're like, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, he doesn't betray Bix in the end.
Yeah.
And Andor's a good guy.
Andor a good guy.
Andor a good guy. Andor not a
good. Andor a good guy. Do bad things. Yeah.
Andor, good guy, do bad things.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into the report card. Grade from A+ to F. This is the easiest of A pluses for me.
Is there a high A++? Is
I mean,
there a
yeah,
higher
it's-
A?
I don't know if we've ever done A++. We probably have. Like if I were to give a thing an A++, it would be this.
Did we give Andor season 1 an A++?
Maybe, I don't remember.
If there's something that deserved an A++ before this, it was definitely Andor season 1. So
Yeah.
yeah, Andor just is king of Star Wars stuff. Period. Like
Yeah.
it's the best.
It's we talked about it a little bit last week when we had Logan on the show and we were doing the Across the Spider-Verse stuff, because we ended up talking about like our Spider-Verse rankings versus our Star Wars rankings. And I found our Star Wars rankings kind of after the fact, and it was Rogue One was the best of the best of the like
Sequel
Disney era of Star Wars that we'd ranked. We basically ranked like the original trilogy as like the top 3. I think it was Empire, Jedi, and New Hope, and then Rogue One was number 4. And yeah, for me, Andor, my favorite has been The Last Jedi, but Andor trumps that.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned, I don't remember if it was on mic or if it was just when we were chatting after the fact, but like, if you treated Andor season 1, Andor season 2, and Rogue One as a trilogy, it's easily it easily trumps any of the other trilogies of Star Wars. And it is that it has that benefit of incredible writing, incredible performances, time with these characters. That's I think is so often the crucial component of it. But it is like it's the ideas that George put forth, but with refined storytelling for a 2025 audience kind of thing, and telling stories that need to be told, that don't have the maybe the glitz and glam of a lightsaber to distract other people. It is like, this is a meaty story. There is a lot of stuff here, and it is all important. So yeah, shout out to that. Yeah, so you're clearly in the A+ boat as well.
100%, yeah.
So extra credit, other suggestions if you like this, of course, Rogue One. Then you have The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Shogun, since we're on Hulu, Skeleton Crew, The Bad Batch, The Book of Boba Fett, and Light and Magic, the Lucasfilm kind of behind the scenes documentary series. Extracurriculars, you watching anything else on Disney Plus? Or like, have you only really made time on Disney Plus for Andor stuff recently?
Right now it's just been Andor stuff, but I'm looking at hopping into the Doctor Who stuff because I got to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been watching the Doctor Who stuff, keeping up with that, and enjoying, like, I really like the first couple episodes, especially Lux, and I'm surprised at how much I've continued to enjoy every other episode of this season. Like, there has, like, the robot, like, I think a case could be made that the season has just gotten better with each episode.
Nice.
And Lux was already like immediately shot to like one of my favorite episodes of, the more recent years and stuff like that. So for that to continue in the episodes that have then followed, with the most recent episode being The Story in the Machine, I can't, like, it's very much one, like, I am absolutely waiting for you to watch them so we can talk about these things, whether we do it on a podcast or not. I just want to talk about these with somebody. So watch them already. But the other thing I'll say, as I said, I did sit down and throw Rogue One on in between the Gorman episodes and or the Gore episodes and the episodes here in the finale chunk. I forgot to mention this last week, but I watched a couple weeks ago the Tales from the Underground latest Disney Plus series of things that came out on May the 4th this year. It was good. It's like, I don't particularly have like this deep affinity to Asajj Ventress or Cad Bane, but you get to see more of their stories kind of thing. More of Asajj Ventress kind of post Clone Wars / Rebels, maybe. I forget where her story ends up in Rebels. And then like, it's a precursor for Cad Bane's story, and kind of like his origins and stuff like that. It's like, cool, neat. Cool. Definitely like, a good continued use of this format of, we're going to take this 6-episode miniseries, use our great animation style that we've been building for 20 years now or whatever, and do a deep dive into a couple more characters and stuff like that. Lots of fun. Whenever they continue to do that, I will show up for them. So shout out to that. But yeah, Andor, obviously the showcase of this last week, alongside Rogue One and Doctor Who, just continues to be really good. But that is going to do it for this episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk all about and gush all over Andor season 2 / the end episodes here / the series as a whole / Rogue One, all of the Andor stuff. So much great stuff, lots of fun. You can follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Folks, if you haven't heard, you're hearing it now. This next That Nerdy Site show is going to be the spoiler cast for Blueprints. Yes, we are doing a spoiler cast for a puzzle game. I will be piloting this episode because honestly, I need to, because I've definitely played it the least of all the people that we have on it. We have a special guest planned. Well, we're still confirming some final details, but we're very much looking forward to doing a spoiler cast on it. Because as Trevor pointed out last night, I don't know dick about this game as much as I thought I did. So I got questions that I'm prepping for it, and I'm looking forward to quizzing you and our special guest.
Cool.
Less of a quiz and more of just like here's something that happens. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, what's the deal there? Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially in that vein, because there are definitely like story nuggets that I found 50 days ago that I've probably forgotten. Like I read the letter once. I don't read that letter every time I go into that room now or something like that. So yeah, there is going to be an element of like, well, I think this is what happened there or those kinds of things. But you finally finished it yesterday. And immediately I went on like a 5-10 minute thing about like, oh, here's what something really meant and stuff like that. And so
I was like, God damn it, there's so much lore to this.
There are many layers deep of the mysteries to unravel.
And for people who are like, oh, did Cameron really play? I have all of this.
Yeah, Cameron has many notes as well.
I have so many notes. Because luckily I was clued into a couple things before I started playing from like just some random things that people mentioned when they were talking about how good the game was.
Yeah.
There weren't really spoilers, but definitely good hints. So like things where I found random dates, like, oh, a month and a day, I would write that down. And turns out it was a code for a safe later, like stuff like that. So like we'll get into it in that episode for sure, but I don't like puzzle games.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's my shout out. Get excited for that, folks.
Stay tuned for that. You can follow me at trevorjstarkey.bsky.social. The thing I will shout out will be next week's episode of That D Plus Show, which we were sitting down and discussing it beforehand, and I forgot that one of the things we had potentially talked about was the Tales from the Underworld as an option, but instead of doing that, we landed on we're going to do Treasure Planet. In part because I've never actually sat down and watched that movie, despite, friends like Ben Bellevue basically gushing it and singing his praises, Ben, Chloe, it being like, but it fell in an era where I had fallen out of Disney for a few years there. And then when I came back, I didn't like go and like catch up on the things I'd missed. So Treasure Planet's one of those like few Disney movies that I haven't actually sat down and watched. It's like that, Brother Bear, Home on the Range. I don't really care about some of those other ones, but I do want to sit down and watch Treasure Planet. In particular, inspired by the upcoming season of Dimension 20, Cloudward Ho. Their like, steampunk in the skies kind of season coming up. The trailer dropped this week, and like one of the first comments I saw was like, the generation that grew up on Treasure Planet and Atlantis thanks you. So it very much feels like they're leaning into those kind of vibes. So I was like, hey, this is an opportunity, especially as we continue to talk about internally on our side of things, like winding down as we, approach the sunsetting kind of window here of That Nerdy Site stuff and content and podcasts. Hey, let's knock out something that I've never watched before. It'd be a fun one to sit down and do. So Treasure Planet, the topic for next week's episode. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please like, rate, review, share the podcast with friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and maybe for the last time, may the Force be with you.
And also with you.